What do you think and how do you feel when you hear the term leadership? Some people, when I ask them that question, right, they kind of go, because they think of power over, right? They think of the ability to manipulate and to coerce, which is how a lot of us have been trained actually to step into leadership, is to be that powerful force that gets people to do what we want them to do. So if that's what you think of leadership, I get why you might feel a little allergic to it. We are in a time, though, now where we are reformulating what leadership is. And you, my friend, are a part of that because every one of us is a part of it. In today's video, we're going to dive into Jupiter lighting up the gate 31, which is the gate of collective leadership in the human design system. And we're going to take a look at the leadership gates, and we're going to see, what does that actually mean for you? What is the potential for you? And then we'll place it in the context of what else is going on at the end of July, because there's a lot. All right, let's go ahead and get started. If I'm new to you, I'm Maggie Ostara. I am a sovereignty mentor and a human design expert. And I want to let you know that I have a deep human design education library on my channel. So if you're new to human design, you want to know more about it, go to my channel and check it out, because you can get a whole education on human design just on my channel. And I like to look at the astrological alignments that are happening from a human design point of view. And so that's what I'm going to be doing today. And I want an emphasis, as I said, on leadership, because we're going to move into Leo season soon, and Jupiter just moved into Leo. Jupiter's going to be there for a whole year. And of course, Leo is one of the sovereign signs. It's definitely a sign of leadership, sign of creativity, also playfulness and fun, sometimes excess and arrogance. There's all kinds of things that go on with Leo. It's a fire sign, right? It's a powerful sign. And so Jupiter, who is beneficent and expands things, but can be prone to excess on occasion, is going to be really bringing Jupiter type of things into our experience of Leo. And so this is a really important time for us to be taking a look at what is our relationship to leadership. Because I think too often we've kind of just either put it off to other people. We thought, well, that's not me. I don't know how to do that. And maybe I don't want to do it the way I've seen it expressed. And so I don't want to do that. But you haven't seen modeled for you a different way to do leadership. And that is what we're experimenting with now. And I think more and more, we're seeing more and more examples of different ways that leadership can happen. And so I want to just share a little bit with you from a human design point of view, how we can look at leadership, because there are leadership gates in all of the major circuits. And I want to share with you what that means. So as context for what we're going to be talking about today, I wanted to show you these different leadership markers. Now, I want to let you know, even if you don't have these defined in your chart, you still have them in your chart. You can still access these energies, absolutely can step into it and utilize them. It's just that the way that you do that will vary depending on your life experience and who you're around, what's happening with the transits. And if you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, you can go and access a free mini training that I have on understanding the human design transits. You can get your human design chart down below in the description, and then go ahead and just get that little mini program, and it'll help you understand what I'm talking about when I'm doing the transits. Okay, so the first one is individual circuitry. So individual circuitry is actually the biggest circuit in the chart, and it is where the evolutionary impulse of humanity runs through the human design system. And its leadership gate is the gate 38, which is on the root center. It's in the knowing circuit, which is a very large subcircuit. And it is highly intuitive. It's plugged directly into superconsciousness. It's not logical or strategic or analytical or any of those things. And and so it is an energy that in traditional human design was called the fighter, and in quantum human design is called the visionary. And it's an interesting shift from what Rahab, who is the founder of human design, would call the not self expression of that gate, the 38, as the fighter. And this is the place where we could think of in that really shadow expression, which is manipulative and is the expression of power over, that could get pretty gnarly with that fighter energy. Or you could be kind of like, I don't like fighting, I don't want to do that. So you could be a little more disempowered or disconnected from that energy. Or you can step into this energy of a visionary quality, because after all, the knowing circuit is absolutely a visionary place in the human design chart, because it is on that leading edge, as I said, of the evolutionary impulse in the system. So the 38 is sometimes called the Martin Luther King gate, where we like to say it's really not about violence. It's about, I like to call it the stake in the ground gate, right? You're putting your stake in the ground. It's like, this is what I stand for, right? This is what I will speak up about. This is what I will, share with other people about, right? This is something that I will give my energy to. And it's an individual thing because it's individual circuitry. Then we have tribal circuitry, which is really about relationships and smaller groups of people. The individual is really about the individual expression. Tribal is like what it sounds like. It's our close relationships, then the people we work with, people in our neighborhoods, and kind of our smaller communities. And the leadership gate of the tribal circuitry is the gate 45. And the gate 45 was known as the king or the queen gate, or sometimes the sovereign gate. And it's been renamed distribution in quantum human design. And this gate is going to be, all of these gates are actually very important, but particularly this one of the 45 and then the 31 that we're going to come to, because there are multiple activations in these gates in this last couple of weeks of July. And I'll get more into depth about that as we go along. But just to say that this is, it's on the throat center. It is in, like I said, it's in the tribal circuit. It's in the commerce or the community subcircuit of the tribal circuit, and it's known as part of the money line. Its mate is the gate 21, and I'll share more about that channel a little bit later. But here, just to know that it's been renamed distribution, right? If we think of royalty, right, which is very hierarchical, right? It's our most hierarchical model that we have. So it was the king or queen gate and then made into the sovereign gate. I still like to call it the sovereign gate because I think we need a sovereign gate in the chart and also in tribal circuitry. But it's been renamed distribution to call out that this is about resources. It's about how we distribute resources. And it's kind of a call inside of quantum human design to say, hey, you know what? We need to take a look at how we're using our resources. We need to look at how we are distributing them, right? We know that we have a massive inequality in the distribution of resources here on our planet, both between, different genders, people of different economic classes, people of different racial groups, people in different countries and different parts of countries, different parts of the world, right? There's just massive inequality, and it's gotten more extreme actually since the pandemic. The pandemic saw the largest rise of wealth to a very small group of people that we had ever seen happen on the planet. If you're not aware of that, it's a good thing to know what really happened in the last 6 years. We want to look at how we're distributing resources. And then in collective circuitry, we have the gate 31, which is part of the logic or the pattern subcircuit of collective circuitry. And it is also on the throat center, just like the 45 is. And it is this expression of the kind of the big picture leadership. Because collective circuitry is about the big things, right? These are about institutions. These are about governments. These are about how different tribes relate to each other, multiple tribes. What are our negotiations inside of that, and so on? What are our agreements inside of that? So that is what the 31 is. And it's known as leadership. Sometimes it's called democracy. I like to call it the new earth leader, because this is, in my view, what we're leaning into is what kind of leadership and what are the many forms of leadership that we would like to seed and nurture, to be different ways of us really relating to each other in this new earth, which is more equitable, which is set up so that everyone has what they need. And it's a world that works for everyone. So let's go ahead and dive into this a little bit more with Jupiter in the gate 31. Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system. It's massive. Actually, some of its moons could be entire planets on their own. It's just huge, right? And so it has a big influence us. It's the thing that has only the second amount of influence after the sun, really, because of how big it is. And it's really considered kind of a teaching energy and a benevolent energy, a beneficent energy. It's associated with Zeus. It's another name of Zeus. So it has that kind of, large quality to it. And you can see even Zeus is like a leader, right? So there is a leadership quality to Jupiter as well. And then Jupiter is coming in and is going to expand our experience of the gate 31. So the gate 31, now it is part of the what's called the channel of the alpha, which is right over here. It connects the throat center to the G center. And so it is where we have the energy really of the heart is coming through that collective circuitry. It's coming through the gate of collaboration, and then it's meeting this leadership energy. As I said, it used to be called the channel of the alpha. So right, the alpha. And so we're really reformulating this. And a couple of years ago, I actually ran a week-long workshop that was called Lightworker Leadership Codes. And I am going to make those available for anyone who is interested to dive into that. I'm putting them on sale. They're 40% off. I'll put that down in the description below and talk about it a little bit more at the end of the video. But the reason I'm mentioning it here is as I go through both all of the leadership gates in more detail and help unpack them so that you can maybe feel a little bit more where you might have some of that alive in your experience. You can also look at where you have them, if they're defined or if they're open in your chart, right? They're colored in or they're white in your chart, and that'll mean different things. And then it also goes through several different possibilities about how leadership could unfold in the new earth. I've been thinking about this for a long time. So I would encourage you to check that out. Some of it is rotating leadership. Sometimes it is that different people are in charge of different aspects. And so they all have leadership within their own domain, but then they come together in more of a collective where they're going to be doing different things together. So there's lots of different ways that we can look at leadership. And I think that this is a wonderful time for us to expand our sense of possibility because as we move into this, Jupiter is opposite Pluto in the gate 41. So in the gene keys and also in human design, we call these programming partners, which means they're on opposite sides of the mandala. In astrology, we see them as exactly opposite each other on the astrological wheel. They're at 4 degrees of their sign. We also have Uranus and Neptune that are playing in this role. I did do a whole video about that a while ago, and I will put the link for that down below if you want to go and find out about the magic triangle and how Jupiter coming in is further activating the magic triangle. And then we have Bordeaux's basket. And so, I do have a whole video about that. But here I just want to focus on Jupiter being opposite Pluto because the Pluto is in the gate of imagination. And I see this as being a way that Pluto is kind of moving through our collective imagination and bringing to the surface the ways that we have given away our power, the ways that we have agreed to have other people be in charge, have other people have power, and we think we can't have that. And this has to do about what we can imagine, right? Can we imagine ourselves being in positions of leadership? Can we imagine power to the people? Can we imagine new structures where more people would be represented and where new leadership would move around? That's going to take our imagination for us to really be able to create models of new Earth leadership. And so Pluto is there saying, hey, is your imagination just all full of, disaster scenarios and worries about earthquakes and flooding and volcanoes coming your way? Is it about political strife? Is it about economic uncertainty? We're like, what is your imagination full of? Because Pluto is in there really asking you to take a look. And then it's going to help you burn down the stuff that is not in alignment with what's true in your heart of hearts. So this is a really great time. I mean, Pluto is in the gate of imagination for 4 years. Okay, it's going to be there for a little bit longer. So it's important for us to really be taking a look at this. And it can be exciting, right? It can be fun because it's like, what can I imagine? We have been so conditioned that we've been kind of living inside of a pretty closed box about what we think is possible. I would call it the box of empire, if you will, which became the box of consumer culture. That's what we live in now. And we want to break ourselves out of that box, right? Joe Dispenza has this great meditation called Changing Boxes, where you realize, oh gosh, this is my normal box that I'm in. I want to create a vision of the future that is a different box, that has different qualities, different reality, right? And then I want to step into that new one. So this is a great metaphor for you to be thinking about as you're looking at, well, what does leadership to me? And can I imagine a form of leadership that I might want to step into? Because it doesn't have to be, you don't have to run for office. You don't have to run a company. You don't have to start your own business to be a leader. I mean, the very first place you're a leader is when you decide to take command of your consciousness, right? I mean, I'm really a teacher of consciousness. And the very first leadership that you take is of yourself. This is what personal sovereignty is. So when we take leadership and responsibility for our actions, for our behaviors, for our thoughts, for our beliefs, for our emotions, for our energy, right? And this is what feminine sovereignty is about, is being able to really take responsibility for this and have command of our consciousness. So you can start there. But then there's always opportunities to look for things that maybe you think need to be started. Or maybe there's an organization that's already happening that you've been a part of or that you admire. And you can see, is there a way I can support them in some way? Because leadership doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to be out in front. There are leaders who support from behind the scenes or who support other leaders or kind of in that role. That's the gate 7 in relation to the 31. It's kind of the support for that gate 31. That's a great place to start if you want to. But there may be places already where you are thinking, I really want to see more of this happen in the world. And I keep thinking somebody's going to do it. Somebody. But you know what? You might be that somebody. So this is a really great opportunity while Jupiter is in the 31. It's going to go all the way through August 3rd. For you to just be musing on this, mulling this over, ruminating on it, right? And thinking for yourself, wow, is there a place where I could take some more leadership in my life? And why am I not doing that? Why am I afraid of it? Or why am I hesitant about it? Is it because I'm allergic to the forms of leadership that I already see? Or is it something else? Was I smushed down at some point when I tried to take leadership, right? Was I suppressed? Was I shamed? Because then you want to heal that piece. This is part of the work that we're doing right now, is to really look at what are the things that are in the way of us truly being able to reach our potential. And that can include a certain form of leadership for you when you get imaginative about what it could be. On July 23rd, Mars is going to move into the gate 45, which is the gate of tribal leadership, the sovereign gate, the king or queen gate, or the gate of distribution. Now, Mars in the 45 can fall into dictatorship, right? Mars in the 31 also can fall into dictatorship. This is really the shadow expression of both the 31 and the 45 is dictatorship, right? Authoritarianism, that reinforcement of that hierarchy where very few people control the resources. And so this is a place where it can go. If Mars falls into his shadow expression, it absolutely can go there. But we've been rehabbing Mars for quite some time. I did a whole video about rehabbing Mars, and I will put that down below in the description as well, because I talked about that when Mars was back in Aries, right, in his own sign. And so we're rehabbing Mars and really wanting to foster the divine masculine rather than the toxic masculine, right? Because dictatorship, authoritarianism is toxic masculinity. It's one expression of toxic masculinity. And so we really want to support that emergence and nurture the divine masculine as much as we can. And in Mars, that is the expression of the spiritual warrior. Right. And we see, like, if any of you are familiar with yoga, there are yoga poses, for example, warrior poses, but there's also humble warrior. Right. And so we want to be kind of humble spiritual warriors, ones that realize that we have a certain spiritual power. Absolutely. I mean, Mars is very powerful. We want to have our power, but we also want to be humble about how we express it and where we express it. And being in the gate of distribution, to be looking at how are we going to distribute resources in such a way that it's really going to support the well-being of everyone. So when Mars moves into that gate 45, it's going to create a complete channel over here with the gate 21. Now, Saturn is in the gate 21. Saturn's been in the gate 21. Saturn's going to continue in the gate 21 for a while. So when a planet goes into the 45, we're going to get this channel. So this channel is known as the money line. And it's interesting in traditional human design, kind of the leadership channels, right? One is channel of the alpha, the other is the money line. So you can see these are really a lot kind of about what we call more traditional forms of power. And the gate 21 is my sun gate. I know it really well. And I like to think of it as stewardship, because it is about how do we well steward our resources, because the steward is the one that really gathers and helps decide how we're then going to distribute them. And then the sovereign does the distribution. But that gate 21 is the one that's really assessing things like, what are the resources that we have and who's going to need what? Because we don't necessarily need to distribute resources exactly the same to every single person. Not every single person has the same needs. And so it's a little bit more complex than just saying everybody gets the same thing. It's more about making sure that people get what they need. Now, Saturn in the 21 could be an energy around authoritarianism, right? Or top-down authority, because sometimes Saturn is associated with that. But I also appreciate Saturn as a more actually feminine energy, because after all, Saturn brings in things into form, bursts things into form, and that is a feminine energy. And so we can think about Saturn helping us to birth new ways of understanding who we can be as stewards, and that will then fuel how we create new forms of leadership in tribal circuitry, as well as what we're doing in collective circuitry. So we've got these right on top of each other right now. The cosmos could not be more clear than telling us we really need to be looking at what's happening with our forms of leadership and how do we want to elevate them so that they can become more in alignment with the world that we're moving into, rather than being vestiges of the world that we're moving away from. Then on July 25th, we're going to have two big shifts. So the first one, the sun is going to move into the gate 31. It's going to join Jupiter there for 6 days. So the sun moves into the gate 31 every year at this time. So that is not an unusual occurrence, but usually Jupiter isn't there. And that's what's unusual about it. And then also the Earth is always in the gate 41 because they're programming partners on opposite sides of the mandala, right? So when the sun moves into the gate 31, 41. The Earth moves into the gate 41. So that means the Earth is going to join Pluto in the gate 41. So this is going to create a even more powerful alignment between that opposition that is happening between Jupiter and Pluto, because now we're going to also have that with the Sun and the Earth in the very same gate. So it's kind of like searchlights are going on the gate 31 and the gate 41 and saying, how are you experiencing and expressing these energies? So what I just talked about with the 31 and the 41, that collective leadership, and how Pluto is bringing in that element of imagination, it's going to be amplified from July 25th to the 30th. And so this is a time really to be diving into this even more. And we may also see ways that leadership is being expressed in new and different ways, or familiar ways, but with a slant during this time as well. Because like I said, it's really, really amplified during this time. So everything that I said before is going to be concentrated during these 5 days. Then let's remember, we want to ground ourselves in the energy of wherever the Earth is. So we want to ground yourself in that sense of imagination, right? You're going to ground yourself with your Earth right next to Pluto. Pluto's going to be right next to you, right? You're going to be like, okay, the god of the underworld is here with my Earth, right? And you can see how those two energies dance together, right? How can you have Pluto work well with your Earth? Can you ask Pluto to help you really get grounded in your imagination? And then that gives you a foundation for your sun to really shine out powerfully into the world. So then that allows that leadership to express even more, because it's grounded in this gate of imagination. So this is just the most incredible time. If there is some way in which you have wanted to step into or to create some form of leadership for yourself, this is the time to do it. On this same day, July 25th, the nodes of the moon are going to change gates, and they also change astrological signs. So it's a big shift. It's a big shift. So they're going to be moving from the south node is in the gate 59, is moving into the gate 29, and the north node has been in the gate 55 and is going to be moving into the gate 30. Now, I did a video before when the nodes moved first into these two gates, so I'll put that down below. So if you want to go and check that out, but I want to focus on what they're moving into now. Remember that the nodes move backwards in relationship to the sun, right? So they're going in the opposite directions. And in this case, they're moving from Pisces into Aquarius and from Virgo into Leo. So these are big shifts of energy. But I want to focus on the gates here, and particularly to emphasize the gate 30. Now, this is what the north node is going to be lighting up all the way through the end of November. And the gate 30 is a very important gate in the human design system. It's called clinging fire in the I Ching, and it's known as fantasy in traditional human design and desire in quantum human design. And it's extremely intense. When we see this in someone's natal chart, we say that the intensity of their chart is amplified by 10. So that's how strong it is, right? And so it's moving into that gate 30, and it is going to be connecting with Pluto in the gate 41 and with the Earth in the gate 41. So it's going to create a complete channel. And the same is true for you with that 4521. If you have an open throat, you have an open will, most have an open will, we're going to have that channel going on for a while as well. So there's a lot of extra definition that's coming in here. You know, right now we've got 4 centers that are defined by transit. So this is major energy that's coming in. And that 30 is really the ability, clinging fire, right? It's the ability to hold on to this possibility that came from your imagination, the gate 41, and to be able to hold on to it and have the intensity build until the right time for it to manifest. Because this isn't manifesting energy. It's all down at the bottom of the chart. Remember, the center for manifestation is the throat center. Manifestation and activation and expression. So this is down lower in the chart. So this is like intensity is going to build here, and it's going going to be building, for the next few months. So you're going to have a lot of extra energetic support, again, to be working with your imagination and having that intensity build. And then as long as, we've got the energies in 31, then you're also going to have that leadership in the mix as well. So take a look at your own chart and see what is the new definition that's coming up for you. Like I said, go and get my free training. I'll put the link for that down below if you don't know what I'm talking about, because this is a really, really potent time for you. And I know I have a lot of extra definition coming in. Paying attention to that can really, for example, help you understand why you might have ups and downs in your energy. Like I know I get a lot of extra energy whenever my throat gets defined, right? Or my emotional solar plexus gets defined. Both of those are important places for me. And I love when those transits happen, right? Because I can feel how I've a different energy circulating in my body. So yeah, do go ahead and get your, get that free training that I have. It's got a little template in there that shows you how you can, kind of work with it. And then a little video. And that channel 4130 really was considered fantasy in traditional human design, but it's been renamed intention, which I actually like. And both of these gates are in Aquarius. So this is a very Aquarian energy. And that actually doesn't happen that much, that channels are in the same astrological sign. And so this is very Aquarian energy. And we've got all this kind of intensity building up in Aquarius during this time. And the thing you really want to focus on is, where are you putting your intention, right? Where are you putting your energy? Where are you putting your focus? Because where you put your focus is where your energy goes, whether you consciously intend it or not. So again, I was talking earlier about really taking command of your consciousness. And the first step of that is recognizing, what are you paying attention to? What are you giving your energy to? Where do you tend to, focus outside of yourself or inside of yourself, and what is serving you and what isn't, right? Because a lot of us spend a lot of time on entertainment, or on scrolling, or on watching movies or TV, really trying to just deal with our stress, right? The world is very stressful right now. And if you're doing that, I totally get that. I mean, it's not that that's bad, but if you do it all the time and that is your only stress management, it's not going to really enable you to get command of your consciousness, because you're constantly giving your energy away to something outside of you. You're not using your own imagination. You're kind of tuning into other people's imagination and seeing if you like it or not, right? As opposed to going inside and cultivating your own imagination. Your own creativity, your own ability to step out of that box and create something new. And this is a really potent time for you to do it. And you've got a few months to get command of your intention so that you can change your focus and you can bring more of what you want into your life instead of trying to manage the things that you don't like. And as if that weren't enough, just to top it off at the end of the month, and I'll do a separate video on this, I'm just going to mention it here, is that we have a full moon in Aquarius in the gate 41. So the moon is going to join the Earth and Pluto in the gate 41, and the sun is still going to be in the gate 31. So right there at the end of the month, as the sun in the 31 and the Earth in the 41 are coming to the close of their time in those gates, but not before we have a full moon, just to supercharge it. So like I said, I'll come back with another video about that later on. This one is long enough, but you can see the alignments are just again and again and again pointing our attention in certain places. And my very best advice to you is pay attention. Pay attention to what they're saying. It's like searchlights to anybody who knows how to read this kind of thing, right? It's like the planets of like whoosh. So take advantage, right? Take advantage. Don't go into the disempowered expression where you just feel like, oh my God, the leadership is totally out of control. I'm just going to disconnect from all of it. You don't have to do that. And you don't have to step into a negative power over expression of leadership either. You can make it up any way that you want to. And my guess is that if you actually looked at your life and you were to take a little bit of an assessment, there are times when you stepped into leadership. There are, because most of us have at some point. And you might want to recall some of that for yourself, just to give yourself a little bit of a sense of, oh yeah, I have done that before. And I what did you create when you did that? Right? Okay. So again, my Lightworker Leadership Codes workshop is on sale as long as Jupiter is in the gate 31. So that's through August 3rd. It's 40% off. I'll put the link at the end of the video here and down below. And if you want to just explore what is a lens through leadership that is for light workers, right? It was designed for light workers, people like us who are really tuning into the cosmos, who are becoming masters of our own consciousness, right? Who are tuning into that new earth energy. It was really designed for that. So I encourage you to go and check it out. Like I said, 40% off for the next few weeks. And I would love to hear how it lands for you when you decide to move through it. Many, many blessings, my friends. This is such a dynamic time that we're in right now. And I know it can be intense. And, frankly, it's going to get more intense. I mean, with that channel 4130 being lit up, it's going to get more intense. And so the more that you can take care of yourself, the more that you can, make sure you have the fundamentals, your water, your sleep, your good food, your time in the sun, your feet on the earth, those kind of fundamentals, and going into your heart as much as possible, really feeling the love that's there for you so that you can bring that into everything that you do. Many, many blessings. Much love. Until the next time, full moon in Aquarius. Bye for now.